and what my TED Talk is about related to joy and finding it and understanding that joy and sorrow coexist. I've worked in higher education for a little over 15 years now, and I've spent almost 12 of those years working at Southern New Hampshire University. Um, I am a lover of life, and outside of work, I spend most of my time just trying to discover joy and learning what I don't like along the way. So I'm going to pass it to Chapreese.
Thank you, Kendra. Good morning, Pam. Good morning, everyone. Glad that you all could be here today. So a little bit about me. I am a mother. I'm a wife. I like Kendra saying being Gloria's daughter. I am Brenda's daughter. I'm very proud of my mom. And I'm a person that, for me, a little bit about me, I love to spend time with my family. I love to spend time with my friends. I love to travel. I am a career advisor at SNHU, and I absolutely love working at SNHU. I am a person who likes to live life. I love what Kendra said about finding joy. And that is one of the things in talking with Kendra that I found out we have a lot alike in. And yeah, I'm just all about having a good time and getting the work done, but always knowing you can have fun while getting the work done as well.
I can attest to that about you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Pamme Boutselis, Senior Content Marketing Director at SNHU, and I've been involved with TEDx, since 2013, both with TEDx Amoskeag-Milliard and TEDx SNHU, which brought me to not only knowing you wonderful women through our experience as colleagues, but deepening that relationship too during the time that you were speakers. Chapreese, you were part of our first cohort of speakers with our very first TEDx SNHU, and you joined us for our second, Kendra. And so I've been thinking a lot about your experiences, but I'm going to ask you, I'm going to invite you to think back to when you learned you'd been nominated to speak at TEDx SNHU. And part of that process is you were asked to share what your idea worth spreading was going to be. And this concept of ideas worth spreading, that's what TED and TEDx are all about. So when you were asked to share your idea for the selection team to consider it, how did you choose that topic? And also the idea that you hope to speak about? Why don't we start with you, Kendra? You're like, thanks again.
I know. Full transparency, we did receive the questions ahead of time, everyone, so we can process. And I have been processing and over processing and just pausing and reflecting a little bit. And I guess the best way I can share how this journey began for me is that I received the nomination as my mom was dying essentially from cancer. So I remember receiving the notification and sitting at her bedside and talking to her about it. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Kendra, that's amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, it's amazing." And then she said, "Well, what's a TED Talk?" And so I had to like explain it to her and everything. And I just remember her pausing and saying, even if you don't, move forward with it, you already won with a nomination that you were recognized. And I saw her at a very challenging point in her life, being able to hold on to joy and experience joy, like secondhand joy from someone else. And I knew that I was going to talk about joy. That's what I set it up as. And even though it changed a little bit as far as my focus, it's interesting how timing, like what happens with timing, because I was able to look at her journey, look at my own journey of joy, and create a talk that I'm really proud of and something that I dedicate to her and my uncle as well. So that is how I got the idea of my TEDx talk. So I'll pass it to Chapreese.
Thank you. So for me, it was when it was an idea worth sharing, my first thought was, what do I want to share and what do I think is important? And the types of careers that I've had and in working at SNHU, one of the things that I realized was that a lot of people have a lot of issues when it comes to shame and confidence. And so I wanted to talk about something that I felt I could help people with overcoming their shame and adding some more confidence to themselves. And as soon as I thought about that, I immediately knew what I wanted to talk about because I was going through my own shame of what I had been hiding for so long. And I felt this was something that if I shared it with others, maybe it could help someone. And once I knew that, that was it. I knew that's where I was going to go and what I wanted to talk about.
And I hope everyone that is on this call for the salon has had the opportunity to view your talks. They're powerful. They're so genuine and authentic to who you are. And there's something for each of us to relate to and learn from in them. So you had to figure out your idea. And then the selection committee, there's a whole team of people that are parsing out what are these ideas about and what do we feel will really be strong ideas to present on the stage. And you later learned, each of you, that you had been chosen to speak at TEDxSNHU. And then for some people, they might be like, well, okay, here we go. Well, that's when the real work begins, right? And you had to start digging into that idea. And you've already alluded to, Kendra, that where you thought you were going to start wasn't where you ended up, which is true for, I would say, anyone doing a talk like this. So you had to dig into this idea and your topic and create your full talk. What was your process like, Chapreese?
So for me, my process was when I got paired up with Spencer Hensel, he was my coach, and immediately I knew like he was the one. He was definitely the perfect fit for me. My process was to tell him, I'm going to send you a video of my story. I am one that, as soon as, well, for one, also being nominated, I want to kind of go back to that moment in it was my team lead, Megan Bickford, who had nominated me. And I was just honored, just like Kendra, just to be nominated. And my husband is the one that's all about TED Talks. I had probably seen about 4 TED Talks. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And not really understanding the magnitude of it. When I was selected, it kind of hit. And I still was kind of like, really? Really? That's nice. That's good. But it was that thing that I just wanted to tell him my story and let him hear what I had to say. So that way he could see, is this something worth telling? I knew that I was going to get emotional. If you know me, you know that I am a very emotional person. I cry at the drop of a hat, just about anything. And for so long, I tried to kind of like hide that. And the older I got, the more I embraced it and just let it go. But I figured if I could say it and he could see what I was feeling, he would then be able to say, I felt that in my heart, and that's definitely something to talk about. And he agreed. He was like, you know what? I never thought about doing it that way. Let's try it. And it cut so much time because I had a lot to say. And as you know, they're not that long. And it was really good to get it all out. And Spencer was probably like maybe the 4th person that I had shared that information with. And so the process was, it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was good. It was very invigorating and very freeing. That's what the process was. I was so free in doing it that I thought, wow, I'm glad that I was asked and nominated and got chosen.
That's fantastic. And Spencer Hensel that you referred to, he was your speaker coach, which is something that every TEDx speaker gets to work with to really help hone that talk and just help you get to where you need to be before you hit the stage. What was your process like? Because yours had a lot of twists and turns for you, Kendra.
First, I want to say I wish I would have thought of recording something and then sending it. So I had the pleasure of having Pam as my speaker coach. And what I love about Pam is that she's going to encourage you to be as real as possible. And what I originally sent, I remember Pam asking me, well, why is joy so important to you? Like, you're talking about all of these things and it's lovely or whatnot, but how did you arrive to this point? And it was at that point that I realized that I'm going to have to dig deep and share some uncomfortable things about my lived experiences, starting at within my childhood, you know. And then I remember just writing, and then there were some gaps, and she was able to tap in and say, well, how did we again connect here? It seems like you skipped a portion of something, and there were several pieces. So it was an incredible journey, and it got to the point where I was using index cards and just sticking them on my wall to say, okay, this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end. And I remember writing it down, putting it on my wall. I'm looking that direction because that's where the wall was that had like at least 100 index cards on it. And then I remember going back to the computer and writing more and more and more and sending it to Pam. And then as I read it again myself, I was like, oh, wait, we're going a little too deep. We're going outside of, you know, where we even need to go. And I remember telling Pam, you know, these are very intimate moments that while may provide context to people, it's something that's so like precious and private for me that I want to give myself permission to hold on to it, because now I've gotten this memory out, or these memories out, intimate moments between me and my mom, that I was like, yeah, I'm glad I wrote this out. And I'm so glad that now I get to keep it for myself, you know? So it was the ultimate permission. Like, I found joy in writing about the sorrow, that it made me realize, like, even this was more dynamic than I could have ever imagined. And the beginning, that writing, that development journey, is one of the top most meaningful moments of my life, experiences of my life, to be able to say, whew, girl, you have been through it. You are getting through it. You will continue to move through it. And it's okay to experience all of the things. And also it's okay to keep some things for yourself too. So those are a few of my ebbs and flows of the TEDx development journey, I would say.
It's far more of a process than I'm sure either you anticipated, and such a learning journey, which is one of the things I love. And we hear that all the time. So some might think, okay, here we go again. The work is done. But others might say, giving voice to those words, being up on the stage in front of a live audience, and then on live stream as well, maybe that's the most difficult part. What do you think? Tell us about your experience. What did that feel like to finally get those words out?
You want me to go? I'll go first this time, then. Thank you. So for me, it was frightening, because I was now really going to share this dirty little secret that I had kept for so long. And, you know, you commit to this, but then afterwards you think, oh gosh, I really said that I'm going to do this. And to some, it may not seem like it was that big of a deal, but for me, in knowing how I felt about myself, how important education was to me, what I thought about myself when it came to my education, and what I had struggled through in college for undergrad. It was a lot. It was when I was up on that stage, I don't ever get nervous until I'm about to walk on any stage. I have been in storytelling. I talk in front of people all the time. It's in that moment when it's getting ready to happen, I go, what did I do? What did I get myself into? And then I go, all right, you got to get it together because you can't turn back now. It was it was scary. I don't know if anyone would ever look, if you watch my TED talk, you'll see my hand was literally shaking when I went to take that envelope out. It was a huge moment for me to know that I was going to share this dirty little secret with everyone that had tuned in, that was sitting in that auditorium. And I thought, well, here it is. You said it, you're going to do it, and now you have to commit. But I was scared. I was scared. Even after knowing what I was going to do, I was still scared.
So, Chapreese, just in case there's someone here today listening that hasn't had an opportunity to hear your talk yet, what was your dirty little secret?
So my dirty little secret was that I couldn't get into grad school because I had had such a low GPA when I was in undergrad. And I had never shared with anyone how horrible my grades were. And I didn't push myself to go back to school because no one would accept me with the grades that I had. And I just never felt that I was going to get that start, even though I had this dream of getting my master's degree and continuing my education. Because of that one little number, I let it stop me from looking to see what else I could do. I had applied to grad school once, got rejected, and I was like, well, won't do that again. I'll never get in. And it was the shame. It was so much shame in me not wanting to tell anyone why I did not continue with my education. If you asked me, and then I had to say, oh, well, it was because I just did not want to go down that road. And my main thing is you can't talk the talk if you're not willing to walk the walk. I can't tell my students to go back and to pursue their education and their dreams if I'm not going to do that myself. If I'm not going to hold myself accountable for what I'm telling you to do, then what am I doing?
Thanks. How about you, Kendra?
I found myself getting so wrapped in Chapreese's story that I forgot the question. I am so
sure.
sorry.
Let me start for you again. What did it feel like when you took the stage and you finally had that opportunity to bring your words to others?
Oh, yeah. So much of that time was a blur. I lost my mom in September of 2023, and we were preparing for the TEDx talk, and presented in February of 2024. So I was working really hard on being present, just being in the moment. And so for me, I also learned that I would be the first to present of the day. And I felt that that was a huge honor, and also like, uh-oh, girl, you in trouble because you might be setting the tone for the day. So while I was there and getting to go to New Hampshire and just be in community with people really made the difference for me. And there's one person that I really want to just name and shout out, and that's Danny Chase, who was also a TEDx speaker that day. And they had their service dog, which is, I believe, a Great Dane named Fred. And Danny went after I did. And you're not supposed to interact with service animals. And Danny saw that I was a little shaky as well. And Fred was coming towards me, and they allowed Fred to come toward me and just sit with me and just kind of calm me down a little bit. And I thought that that was such a huge act of kindness, to allow that while they were also in their feelings, because they were also speaking that day. But what I noticed is that everyone had these incredible stories and had so many different impacts on their own lives that it made me feel more comfortable presenting, even though, yes, if that remote wasn't in my hand, I think everybody would have just seen me just doing jazz hands the entire time, but I had something to hold on to, and it felt so reassuring. And um, knowing that I can have a script and I can also go off script and stay within that time felt very comforting to me. So I didn't have to memorize every single thing, and to ensure that I was still getting my point across, with also acknowledging that no one knows what I'm going to say. So even if I miss a word or two or 10, nobody knows that. And that is a-okay with me. So overall, it was a really great experience. And also, I think being the first, I was just really able to kind of breathe and relax after, because then I could just sit there and watch everyone else, share their incredible stories too.
I think you're the first person who has ever said holding that clicker in your hand gave you reassurance, because it often stresses people out. So good to know.
Okay.
And I had put in the chat too, Chapreese, you were also the first speaker when you went
Wow.
on too.
So Kendra, you just brought me back because I forgot about that. I literally forgot
look at
that
you
I was
leading,
first.
ladies.
And when you said that, I'm like, oh my goodness. I remember Pam saying, so you're going to be first. And I thought, what? What? And having that same reaction, like, I have to set the tone
Yes.
of what this is going to be. And
Yeah.
my biggest thing was, I don't want to screw it up for anyone. Like, I want to make certain that I am on point so that it's going to have that flow. And just like you said, Kendra, once it was over, I thought, whew, now I can sit back and
That's
relax
right.
and watch everyone else. And I do want to say one other thing, because you did it and you reminded me about this as well. I need to shout out my daughter. You talked about that clicker and people not knowing what we were supposed to say, or and I didn't shout her out the first time. And I meant to shout my daughter Taylor out, because she was a huge, intricate part in me earning my degree. I am not a confident person when it comes to math, and that's a whole nother story and probably another TED Talk. But she helped me with my 2 math classes so much that I can't thank her enough of being patient with me asking 50 million questions about, well, why did you do this? Or why is it doing that? And her just like, oh my gosh, can you just get it already? She was fantastic in helping me with getting my degree as well. And I know she's probably working, so she's not listening, but Taylor, mommy thanks you for that. You were huge in that. And I didn't give you your flowers then, but I'm giving them to you now.
That's awesome. So you've kind of alluded to quite a few things in the challenges and the difficulties, not just with this TEDx experience, but in your life. What's something you learned about yourself, but only through difficulty? What about you, Chapreese? Besides math, of course.
So what I learned about myself is that I'm never giving up. I am going to fight until there is no fight left. I attribute that to my mom. My mom was a teenage parent, and she was well beyond her years. When I one day finally did the math and kind of looked at how old she was and how old I was, and thought about, wow, how did you have that insight to do that? My mom is the person that gave me everything: my confidence, my courage, my strength. Like I wouldn't be who I am without Brenda. I tease her because my mom does not let you call her by her first name. So I like to tease her every now and again. But she's the person that created who I am and how I become. I I'm just always I'm never going to quit. I also am a person that is I'm a very spiritual person. So whenever I need to do something, I pray about it. And prayer gets me through those difficult times. And I'm very fortunate that I have a very loving husband who is extremely supportive. You already know about Taylor. And I have great team members from work, but I also have a huge group of friends that are there for me when I need them and that show up all the time. And so I lean on everything when it comes to those difficult times, but those are the things that get me through.
What about you, Kendra? What have you learned about yourself through the difficulties?
What I've learned through the difficulties is that I can always find joy somewhere. With that being said, I can also acknowledge that I don't have to be joyful every single minute of the day. I can make room for any feelings that I may have. If I feel like something is too much, I can pause. I can remove myself from things. I can write out my feelings. Even if I'm unable to escape it, I can jot it down somewhere so I can continue to stay in my body. And I think being so in tune with myself helps me navigate so many different things. And that's not a skill that I've always had. And I don't feel like I am a naturally joyful person. I have to be intentional about it. So being able to tap into, okay, I feel sorrow or I feel shame about something. What can I do to get out of it? And being able to take that in, receive it, reflect on it a bit, and then think about some steps to move forward. That really helps me identify my joys too. So being fully aware of myself also helps me be present for everybody, for so many, my household and the people that I work with.
I think in both knowing you personally, Kendra, as well as professionally, one of the things I've learned from you is about, especially when times are feeling full of tension or conflict, that two big feelings or more can coexist. And that you can feel grief, you can feel anger, you can feel concern, and you can still acknowledge your joy, as well as the whole myriad of feelings that are out there. And I think that's an important thing we've all had to learn so much throughout all kinds of difficulties. So, and I know within your work, and I'm sure in your personal life, you come across people that are facing challenges that they just think are bigger than them and they can't overcome them. What advice, Kendra, would you give to someone in that situation?
I love this question because I think about all of the things that I thought that I told myself that I couldn't get through, and they are so far in the past because I got through them, you know? I feel like there are so many tests and things that we may experience, and uh, it's important to know that it will pass. It doesn't mean that it will pass in 5 minutes or tomorrow, but you will get through it. The biggest lesson for me in that is the things that I don't get through are the things that I continuously repeat. And then I'm like, "Ugh, I knew that was going to happen. Ugh, I knew that was going to happen." And then I do it again until I finally realize that, oh, I can get myself out of this, or I can talk to somebody about this and help me think differently, reframe how I'm thinking. So whatever you're going through, you can get through it. And I would ask you to just think about and reflect on all of the things that you've already been through and that you've already overcome and what you've learned from those things. And then also some of the things that you haven't gotten through yet, and ask yourself how many times you may have repeated those things so you can really get the lesson.
Great advice. What about you, Chapreese?
I'm going to piggyback off of Kendra because I feel the same exact way. My advice would be, if you know me, you know my tag is never, ever, 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 ever give up. There are 5 evers for a reason, and that you've got this. I feel that we all know the answer, but we may not have the confidence in ourselves to believe that we can do it. So don't give up. Be confident in what you already know. And just like Kendra said, you've gone through things. So take a moment to reflect back on what did you go through that you thought you couldn't get through, but you are still standing here today. And use that as a frame of reference. When you feel like you can't, take a pause and go, wait a minute. What was that situation that I thought it's never going to happen? I'm never going to get through it. And use that as that stepping stone to go, you know what? It was hard. It took some time, but let me do that. And then the other thing is, I'm a huge believer in you have to go through the emotions. People, I feel, sometimes try to skip that part. And it's relevant. You have to feel the feels. I remember going through something really personal and tragic for myself. And I cried every day for 6 months straight. 2 times a day, I allowed myself to cry because I had things to do. But I knew I needed to let this out. And then it was one day I went, got where I was at, and I hadn't cried. And I thought, oh my gosh, like it's finally over. And it felt so freeing and so good. And I use that sometimes when things are difficult to go, you got through that, you can get through anything.
Well, like the distinction too that you both point out, you are capable, you are strong, you have historical evidence that you have been through things, but neither you are saying, hey, it's easy. Nothing easy about a lot of it, but you've got this. So what we've got now is an opportunity. If anyone has a question they'd like to put in the chat, I know there's a breakout room that's going to be happening soon, but we've got a couple of minutes if anyone has a question for either Kendra or Chapreese or both. And I will ask you, Matt, if you've seen anything thus far in the chat.
We had one attendee who asked what to do with their question. However, they did not ask a question yet. So no questions yet, but we are still.
One just popped up. How do you overcome anxiety? And that could be for either of you.
I'll go first. So for me, I'm not an anxious person. So it would be pretty challenging for me to really give advice on this. What I will say about it, though, it's not to say I've never been anxious, but that's not something that I go through very often. For the times where I have been like that, I take a deep breath. I center myself, and I am always realistic about what's really going to happen. A lot of times we distort what the reality is and make it a lot bigger. If this happened, I always think, what's the worst that could ever happen? I really go there. And my family was always like, you're a little too dark for us. I don't know where you get that from. But when I say it out loud, I go, that is highly unlikely to happen. And that's what kind of brings me back down to go, okay, if that's the worst that could happen and it won't, then everything else won't be that bad. And again, I take that time to reflect, to say, okay, little bits. I was reading something the other day. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You don't do everything all at once. And I try not to ever look at what the huge picture is. I know what it is, but then I go, what are the little steps I need to take in order to do that? And that to me kind of helps with anxiety, because when you try to look at everything in a whole, it's very overwhelming. It will make you anxious. So just take the time to reflect and just look at it piece by piece and see how you can attack it.
I will admit that I do experience anxiety from time to time. I'll say one of the things that helped me is speaking to a therapist, just about a lot of my lived experiences, to kind of track, like, where are these feelings coming from? Like, why am I feeling this way? So with Chapreese saying that, how she like pauses and reflects, there's so much of that that goes on. Another part is really looking at what's within my sphere of control and how are these things going to impact me directly? How do they impact others? Like, there's so much to think about. And I think through a work lens, I can experience anxiety because there's just so much going on, and there's a lot of responsibility, and it's a great responsibility, which means for me that I don't want to let people down. And then personally, I got my husband, my kids, I got all these people I care about and things, and I want to keep them safe. And so I again go back to, well, what's in my control? What am I missing to make me feel this way? And also, why am I feeling this way? And just having those things identified helps me out a lot. And then I saw a question related to time management, and time gives me anxiety. So I live by my calendar, and I have my to-dos, and I live in my planner and all of those things. And then I set goals that are truly achievable for the time being, and not things that are beyond my own understanding. So I do everything in a phased approach. I take a phased approach to everything.
I think this is something that you both touched upon a little bit, but we have a question too about, you both alluded to that you do need to go through the emotions, they're important, but how do you manage those feelings when you're trying to show up for your kids? You're like, I know this.
So I have two children who are very individual people. I have a 23-year-old son who's on the autism spectrum and has who lives with quite a few disabilities that will keep him with us. That sounds like a repeat of the TEDx talk because I said that, but that's okay. And then I have an 11-year-old who is he's an average child, but very shy, and he also experiences anxiety. So what I learned from my first child is that my expectations shouldn't be put on to him. That's the first thing. So what he wants for his life, I want to support him. It's not about the dreams that I had for him. And with my 11-year-old, it's me moving beyond the fear of the experiences that he may have that he hasn't even encountered yet. I'm just creating all sorts of interesting stories, if you will. So instead of me centering myself in my children's experiences, I ask them lots of questions to get a better understanding of who they are and their goals and all of those things. And then I work to support those goals and dreams and interests that they have without me putting my fears onto my babies.
I love that. I love that. I am a mom of one. My daughter is 28. And for me, ever since she was born, my thought was always that I have to make certain that she knows that she can do anything. And I need to be strong, but I also need to show her that I can be vulnerable. I show my emotions no matter what. My daughter has seen me cry. She has seen me laugh. I don't try to hide those things from her because I don't want her to feel that she has to do that as well. I try to make certain that I took away a lot of stereotypes that were imposed on women to make her know she didn't have to have that, that her life was her life. And I want her to do what she wants to do and be allowed that because I was allowed that. She'll tell you, oh, my mom is always going to try to tell me what to do. And I always tell her, but that's because I'm your mom. I'm supposed to tell you what to do. But she knows that I've always wanted her to be her own person. And she is. Trust you me. She is not going to let you tell her but so much. And that's what I wanted in her. I wanted her to have that confidence to speak up for herself, to express what she wanted. And because she sees me doing it, she does it. She is a mini me for sure. And I say that in a sense of that I love it. Like we get along very well. We have a great relationship. And we can go back and forth with one another with that, but that's how I want it. I wouldn't change anything about her, and I feel that when I look at her, I'm very proud of what my mom taught me and what I took from her, what I made my own, and then what I'm giving to my daughter, because hopefully one day she'll be a mom and she'll be able to take what I gave and tweak it, for herself and her family. And that's what I try to do for her. Be who you really are.
So when you look back, what do you think most helped you get to the TEDx stage? Was it relationships you built, how you shared your interests out in the universe, or the internal work you did to show up with vulnerability?
All the above. I think it's everything. I think, the more I listen to Kendra and, watch her, I feel like Kendra and I have we're a lot alike. She's got that same energy. And I think when you have certain things, people are drawn to you. They see your authenticity. They know that, everybody knows I'm a real person. What you see is what you get. I'm not out there to hurt anyone. But if you ask my opinion about something, the first thing I'm going to say is, you sure you want to know? Because then I'm going to tell you, don't ask what you don't want to know. But I'm not here to offer what my ideas are or what I think you should be doing. But if you ask, I'm going to tell you based on my experiences or listening to what you said, what I think might work. And if you don't take it, that's fine. I'm not going to be offended. But here's what I'm going to tell you and what you need to do. Plus, I think I know a lot anyway. Let's just be real. I was a social worker.
And yet you do.
Yeah, I'm a Capricorn. There are just so many reasons why. But I am very respectful of knowing when to back off or knowing when someone doesn't need that and they just need an ear to listen and to be that comforting friend, because I know that's what I would want.
How do you think you found your way to that TEDx stage, Kendra?
With lots of tears. I'm joking, but so serious.
Two things can be true.
Yes. I did so much of what Chapreese, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that we're doing this together. I think it's important to just trust yourself. And you have so many different lived experiences, and we have so many stories to tell. We have so many stories to tell. And I'm going to speak for you, Chapreese, but if I'm wrong, say, girl, you're not right.
She will.
Yes. Chapreese and I shared one story about ourselves. That is not our whole story. We could break that out into so many different segments of our lives and the things that we've learned, and even what we've learned since the time that we did our TEDx talks. So I just credit my lived experiences just as much as my educational journey, being a first generation college student and graduate, and all of the things, and back in school now, and just continuing to just soak it all up and learn, and then also sit and be like, whoo, I wish I would have known this years ago, so I would say you are your whole self. And it's okay to look at different parts of your story and reflect on those things and also share those things with others as you see fit.
I would have to say that having been involved with TEDx since 2013, a lot of the people who become speakers, and I've been, very much involved with speaker selection over the years too, and nominating quite a few people to speak. The thing that stands out is be yourself, be authentic. If you've got an idea on something, what's your unique take on that idea? Because one, how you present yourself to the world. I mean, I think you can see these two women, you can tell why they got nominated, right? But everybody has something really unique about them. And just be yourself. People are going to notice. Speak up with your opinion, but be respectful and listen. You can nominate yourself if you're interested in becoming a speaker. And then when you are sharing your idea, because you'll be asked, what is the idea you have that's worth spreading? Make sure it's unique to who you are and how you interpret it. And there's no kind of magic about any of this, but I think the people who get chosen or nominated at the very least, they got something to say, and you notice that about them. There was a question too about how do you overcome imposter syndrome? When you put that doctor before your name, Kendra, what'd that feel like?
I don't like that question about the doctor part. And I also have a strange relationship with imposter syndrome. So I'll say I don't always use the doctor title. I usually introduce myself as Kendra. I feel like at SNHU, I just want people to know me. You probably noticed I didn't even say what I do here at SNHU. I just want you to know me, and I feel like sometimes if you see my title that it may make you not want to approach me. So I from an imposter syndrome lens, it's not that I'm ashamed of any of those things. I just want you to be able to see me and experience me before you know all of these other things that are they're just titles, and they're important, they matter, and all of those things, but you may miss all of those things. You may miss me in seeing those other things. So I just like to stay mindful of that. As far as imposter syndrome, y'all, I love myself so much. Like, I am my favorite person. Okay. And I say that with so much joy and respect. And me loving myself doesn't stop me from recognizing, seeing, loving, feeling, representing anybody else. But I feel like if I can't love myself and if I can't love up on myself, there's no room for me to hold space for others, because my insecurities about myself may block my opportunity to experience the wholeness and fullness of others.
Woo, man, Kendra, yes, 50 times over, yes, yes, yes. I got to go back to Brenda. My mom always told me, you belong anywhere you want to go. And growing up in New York, from the Bronx, as a Black female, my mom always told me, you go anywhere you want to be because you belong there, and don't let anybody tell you that you don't. So I don't suffer from it. I'm not saying that there aren't times where I'm like, ooh, I don't know. But the moment I go, ooh, I don't know, I go, what are you doing? You do know. You do belong, and you deserve this. I work hard. I've worked hard for everything that I have gotten. And I know I haven't gotten where I am just because of luck. I know I put in the hours to do the things to get me where I needed to be. And so I'm not going to feel like I can't sit at the table with everyone else. That's not it. And if I feel like I don't belong at the table, that's me telling myself, then what do you need to do to get there? Because I'm not going to say I can't be at the table. I need to work a little harder so I can eat with everybody else.
Can't imagine a table that wouldn't welcome you. There's a question, and to be honest, we could plan to do a breakout session or two. You have so many great questions. We just want to keep going. So what advice, and I'm going to let you two duke it out, who's going to answer this. What advice would you give someone that has trouble sticking up for themselves?
I can't even say it.
Oh, you got it?
Let me try. You got to do it. You have to stick up for yourself. And I don't mean like you don't have to fight anyone, but you have a voice. And sticking up for yourself means respecting yourself. And sometimes we have to use these words that people don't necessarily want to say, because then they got to really kind of look at themselves and go, ooh, I don't really like feeling that about myself or saying that out loud about myself. When you respect yourself, and I mean this with the utmost respect, when you respect yourself, you're going to command others respect you, which will lead to you speaking up for you. When you're not, think about where that's coming from. A lot of these thoughts come from what people have told us about ourselves that they thought, and it's usually not something positive. And so you hold on to these beliefs of who you think you really are when you know deep down that's not it. And you let these stories be told by other people about you. And we can't do that. We can't allow that to happen. So start off with something small. So, again, eat that elephant one bite at a time. So it could be something like me. I'm the type of person, if I go to a store and I have done this and I feel the customer service isn't well, I've worked hard for my money. And I'm not asking for you to do the utmost, but I've gone in to say, you know what? I don't feel like you deserve to have my business. I don't want this, or I'm not paying for that now. You can take it back and you can refund my money, because of how the customer service was. I'm huge into customer service. And so if you can't make me feel like you even value me, then I'm not going to give you anything from me. And sometimes it's taking a step away from the people who aren't giving it to you. That's your voice as well.
May I add something? I know we're at the end. Yes, Chapreese, yes. And I want to add that sometimes it's about the work is us too, and in my TEDx talk, I talk about like the joy journal that I started for myself, where I'm just leaning into things that brought me joy throughout the day. But I think there's an opportunity to have a love journal as well, where you acknowledge the things that you love about yourself. So y'all heard me say I use the index cards to, put my talk together, but I also used sticky notes and put them all over my mirror, just giving affirmations to myself. I did that last year. And what I noticed is that my husband started writing little affirmations on the sticky notes for me as well. So it was always a nice surprise to see it. But anytime I felt like I was questioning myself, I would write the opposite of that feeling and just stick it right on that mirror. So I think there's an opportunity to love on yourself. And once you love yourself so much, it's going to be really hard to receive the negativity from others, because again, you're going to love yourself so much that where's the room for someone else to give you anything other than love? Where is it?
That right there.
Whew, that's so powerful. Okay, I know we're at time. I know in the chat, Matt has also put a link for a survey. I do want to say one thing, and you can all feel free to clap or whatever you'd like to do virtually. Did these two women need to start a podcast?
I've been dying to do a podcast.
I'm thinking
Kendra,
it.
let's
fun.
make it happen.
Thank you
I will
so
drag
much.
her in.
Thank you all. Wow, this was so much fun.
Yes, thank you.
This is my
to
joy of the day.
everyone. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone at SNHU to make this all happen.
Yeah.
Like everybody. And to all of my people out there who joined, thank you for joining. I totally appreciate all of you. And Kendra, you rock, girl.
As do you. And I think we should talk a little bit.
Don't say it because I will be hounding you. Now you've
Please.
heard it. It's gonna happen.
Accountability. I need
All
it.
right.
So thank you.
I love it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
take it.
everybody.
From here, thank you, Chapreese. Thank you, Kendra. We really appreciate it. There's some love in the chat you need to check out if you couldn't. Thank you, Pam, for being an amazing interviewer and facilitator. As always, as Matt said in the comments, please fill out our survey, and hopefully we'll see you at June 18th for our next TEDx SNHU Salon. And thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a good rest of the day.